ada orang yang tersinggung dengan kesalahan yang begitu. I do appreciate and I am very happy. Alangkah senang saya ada di sini sama dengan rekan-rekan yang mengajar bahasa Inggris dengan anak-anak muda dan dewasa orang Indonesia. Let me explain a few things as a way of introduction, and then we'll move into the presentation. At the moment, our volunteer, or our LIA helpers, are handing you one more piece of paper, one more bahan that I will be using, you will be using during the workshop, and I'll explain that when we come to that titik kritis, the critical point when that will be useful. Okay, I have one initial question, one first question. My first visit to Semarang was in 1972. Was anybody here in 1972 when I came?
I was living imagination.
Sayang sekali, that's why I don't recognize anybody. No, I did. I came here in 1972. So this is sebagai penjelasan. My background, I came here as a student of Sastra Indonesia. I was learning Bahasa Indonesia, Budaya Indonesia, and Sejarah Indonesia in Sydney University for 4 years. I decided with 2 or 3 colleagues, friends, sahabat, that we would test our competency, our proficiency dalam Bahasa Indonesia. And we decided to travel. We traveled for 2 months in Java and Bali in 1971 and 1972. We did visit Semarang. We were here for 3 days, I do recall. And I've been back to Semarang many times. Wiko Baba is one of my favorite foods. If ever I'm sitting down with a cup of coffee, paling cocok dengan kopinya adalah Wiko Baba. I enjoy the foods of Semarang. Kebetulan juga, I do have a family connection to Central Java now. Our mantu is my son's wife, is Kina Yosi. So I do feel very much connected to Java. We feel very lucky to have her as part of our family. And we have a cucu now in the family, who is also obviously setengah Java. So I'm very proud of that as well. I offer that introduction, and I also offer this as a piece of introduction, that one of my first experiences after 1 year of teaching in Australia, teaching Bahasa Indonesia. I came here as a relawan, sukarelawan. I came here under the invitation of the PGRI to teach for 2 months in Jakarta. So I was teaching English in SMA 24, which used to be Lakang Kondak. It's now the Lakang Tembak in Senayan. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about culture, I learned a lot about teaching, and I learned a lot about Indonesia. At that time I was still single, I was not yet married. After marriage we had 3 children, and as I said, we were living in Australia. I was teaching Indonesian and English in Australian high schools. We moved here in 1986. Sejak tahun 2006, I have been here teaching at those 3 institutions, and now, what would you call it, semi-retired? Is that setengah lansia? I don't know. Setengah matang? I am now doing a lot of workshops with IELTS, with the Oxford University Press, and also for an institution called the International Baccalaureate. The IB is a very big institution that teaches students all over the world, and I teach teachers. I'm an online teacher trainer, and at the moment I'm running a workshop with 17 teachers all over the world who have connected with me since last Wednesday. So even while I'm standing here, they think I'm teaching them. Don't tell them I'm not. but we will. I'll connect with them this evening and offer some advice. I go back to the point of why I'm here. I'm very happy to be here to share what I think is a very, very important skill, a very important responsibility that we, as English teachers, must face and we should practice. And that's the teaching of culture. Indonesia had this right. When I first came here, there was the Depdikbud, Department Pendidikan Kebudayaan. PAS, Culture and Education. Perfect. Tapi sesudah reformasi, it changed. And we now have Depdiknas. Mana kebudayaan? Where has the culture gone? With the teaching of Indonesian culture, that is, in Indonesian schools. I think, I could be wrong, but I think it's shifted to the Department of Tourism. Ibu Mari Mengistu seems to be the cultural ambassador for Indonesia at the moment. Betul? Which is a shame. I mean, it's good. She's good. And that's good that somebody is doing it. But I think it still should be with the Department of Education. The teaching of culture still should be in your bahan-bahan, in your textbooks. The world is changing very fast. Students are learning and connecting with cultures without us, without teachers. They can do it, internet, Facebook, and it's instant. But I do think it's up to us, because if we don't do it, siapa yang mengajar budaya? And language is one of the most essential features of a culture. So I want you to keep that in your mind as we do this presentation, as we go through these slides, that itu kewajiban. Not just, later, oh yeah, susah. I'll let someone else teach that, history teach that. Let's take on that responsibility. Let's share some good ideas today. Dan seterusnya, I'll offer you some connections to my Facebook, to my Twitter, and also some of the things that I'm talking about in my blog. And I really hope that you will connect with each other and me as we continue this tujuan. All right, so let me start. That's probably where we should start, at the end. That's my address, that's my Twitter account, and it is in your notes. I just go through these 3 points again. We must teach culture in ELC classes because we are the ones, we are the people who can promote what I call, and what many educational and business leaders are now saying, is a critical skill in 21st century students. This skill is called cultural intelligence. You've heard of IQ. You might have heard of EQ, emotional intelligence. What I want you to be thinking of this morning, or this siang, is cultural intelligence. I didn't do it yet, and I mohon maaf. I will include a test of cultural intelligence on my blog in the next few days, so that you can measure your cultural intelligence. You can borrow that and test it with your students. It's very short, but I forgot to put it on the blog. I apologize. I'll do that. If not, minggu Senin. Today we'll review these 3 things. We'll review and practice 3 ways to teach culture. We will look at this through what I call critical incidents. We'll look at it through strategies in which an educational teacher, a teacher of teachers, calls synergies and differences. Sama tapi beda. And then we'll also look at what I think is a good textbook. In fact, you've got it in your pack. It's got it. I'm representing Oxford University Press, so I'm also saying that's a good book that you can use immediately when you go back to your schools to teach culture, and I'll show you how. Another thing, and I forgot to do this at the beginning, that I hope happens today. And Barbara, she's not here, I must thank her. She did a fantastic job, a fantastic result from her workshop. In any workshop, and Irene knows this, I always say this, in any workshop in which I have participated, there are three important things for me. If I'm sitting there watching, I want to take something back to my school on Monday that I can use. If I'm sitting here, I want to enjoy this workshop. And if I'm sitting here or in coffee break or at the end of the day, I want to meet somebody new. I want to make a new friend. Now, Barbara has already achieved two of those aims. I'm sure you have met somebody new with her activities. So, like I saw you were having fun. You were enjoying that workshop. I hope you enjoyed this part. But that's already been achieved. You have already started to accumulate, to collect baha ideas, activities that you can take back. So mudah-mudahan this will continue that same. Okay, one last thing. I hope you are familiar with this. I think most English language teachers are. It's the PPP method of teaching. A very old traditional method that adds structure to a lesson plan. P1, you present something. P2, you practice that activity. P3, you produce something new using that language. The last P is something that I've only discovered very recently too, and that's the personalise P, the last one. So when you are making a lesson plan, is there something, and I'm sure we always do it, that makes that lesson plan unique to you? Something that you add that's personalised. Yeah, even better if you can personalise it with your students. Okay. An essential agreement. So once again, let's review this. We're here to talk about why we should teach culture. I say, and I hope you are starting to agree with me, that it's the fifth language skill. In fact, I'm not the only person that says that. In my notes and in my blog, there's a reference to a man who's given you two articles. They're in my blog, you can read them there, or you can go to his site, and not his site, it's the BBC Learn English site, and download very good articles. One is called Why We Should Teach Culture, and his second article is How to Teach Culture in the Language Classroom. In a few minutes we'll move on to definisi and some pictures of culture, which help us again establish some essentials, some agreements about what we're talking about. And then we'll look at two qualities or two activities that you can use in your room. It's called the synergies and difference activity and the critical incidence activity. Kata-katanya canggih banget, tapi it's very simple. I've got to say, I really enjoy Artie's accent. We were talking before. I did, and I thought, and I was right, she actually used to work in radio. And she's got a very clear voice, a very good voice. Very well. All right, I won't do this with you, but and we are going to do it later, we're going to pretend we're teaching culture. You are going to be teaching culture. Pura-pura, kamu sudah dapat beasiswa, kamu sudah berangkat ke Amerika, Inggris, Australia, dan sedang mengajar salah satu and find things that they have in common, the things that are the same. Lebih bagus lagi kalau mereka mencari istilah ini yang terkait dengan kebudayaan, culture. And culture includes foods, religion, dress, music, education, hampir semua termasuk culture. So they're talking and they're communicating in this activity about their culture. The second step in common ground is that you will ask them, the participants, now find one thing that you don't share. Jadi sebenarnya pertama, three things they share. Kami semua senang banget dengan ayam rica-rica. like this special type of chicken. Something we don't share, maybe we are not the same religion. There's a Christian, there's a Buddhist, there's a Hindu, there's some Muslim. Could be that one, that's an example. The last category, the last question that you ask them to share is something that makes that group unique. We are all grandparents. So that group are the old ones. But it could be any category that you're sharing in. After that, you share it with a large group. And it's a very good activity. It does work very well. We practiced it 24 hours ago up in Sukabumi when we were doing a presentation. So I do invite you to think about that. Keep it in your lesson activities if you are sharing a culture with a new class or a new audience. An icebreaker. That's the first one, common ground. This is a picture of my workshop in IELTS last week in Ponapinda. I use it still when I'm teaching students like these. This is a group of 4 young ladies from Ubi who are doing IELTS exams and workshops to get a scholarship to go to Melbourne. It works. Think about that picture for a minute. Obviously a young boy who's not Japanese or Chinese or speaker of that culture, but he's now writing. And I think that is what we are aiming for here. Bilingualism, biculturalism. So not only are we teaching English, but we are hoping that these students we teach become very good they should have very strong cultural intelligence. I don't know if you see that. See that young girl in the front? This one I'm pointing to? She's the only boy in that class. This is a young girl who is now, this was last year, 2 years ago. This was a grade 4 class in Nanyang Primary in Singapore. And she's in a class full of students who are learning Mandarin. Her dad, Jim Rogers, is a banker from New York. He and his wife decided to move to Singapore and to put their children in a Mandarin school. They believe this is so important that China is the center of this next century, that they want their children to be very good proficient speakers of the language, and obviously very good, strong, culturally intelligent young girls when it comes to China. Let's look at a couple of pictures. This picture might help you. If you know what an iceberg is, I'm sure you've seen the Titanic. You know what happened to Leonardo when they hit the Titanic, or when the Titanic hits the iceberg. The iceberg is a great model of culture. There's a very small tip of the iceberg, and it's the same with culture. If we visit another country, then we can see and recognize. Things are sort of similar but different. But Ibawa, the iceberg is enormous. And the iceberg has a lot of things that we cannot see, just like culture. And it takes time, and it takes study, it takes patience, and it takes experience to find out what the invisible is. So that's a big concept of culture. I like pictures because they help me to remember things. Another visual for culture, well that's the same one, I'm sorry. You might like to look there and recognize what you usually see in culture. Artifacts, traditions, behaviors, heroes, symbols. Below, there's a very deep area of beliefs, perceptions, assumption, attitudes that takes more time to find. Another model of culture that is often shared is the onion model, the bawang. You know, a bawang has got layers and layers in it. And as you peel each layer, you come to the core, the middle of the bawang. It's a good one too, kadang-kadang. With pengalaman, there's a little bit of tears. You make a mistake, you do something wrong, you do become upset, so there's an emotional thing. So the tears might remind you that culture has an emotional side in the sense that it can be disappointing sometimes. All right, let me give you a definition rather than you find one. So please read. It's a system of behaviour patterns that are characteristic of the way of life. This is what it includes. What a group of people thinks, says, does, makes. So the language, the material artifacts, and systems of attitudes and feelings is what's culture. How do you teach this to elementary students? It's not easy, but we can do some things to achieve this cultural intelligence. Final thing about culture, it's learned and transmitted. That's one theory. I've been reading recently that maybe that's not so true. And there's a very good book written by an American researcher called Richard Nisbett. His book is called The Geography of Thought. Think about it. The geography of thought. His theory is that our brains, in terms of where culturally we are from, are wired differently. So Japanese brains are different from Australian brains in the sense of the way they work and the culture that is represented from those brains. A fascinating book, something you can find on the internet. I think it's on my blog, but I'll have to check. Okay, very quickly, this is what the article from Tomlin indicates, that culture is a fifth language skill. The reason why is because of the increasingly important international role of English and the force of globalization. Sabagai katakata dasa, this is why we should be teaching. I mentioned we have Indian English, American English, and of course the label is starting to represent cultures, yeah? Indian culture, American culture, British culture. How can we now think about using some of these materials and methods in our classroom? And let's start with one, which I call critical incidents. Before we do that, perhaps we should also think about this. If we don't do it, like I said before, who does it? Is it the history teacher, the anthropology teacher, the psychology teacher, the sociology teacher? Because culture connects from all of those disciplines. It's a line. Please watch this video. Relax, enjoy, and watch some people trying to interpret culture. Two taxi drivers.
University, and it's one of those clips you often see on Garuda, shows these Jessel Arts clips. But the focus there is on observing and then acting, which we do when we try to learn a new culture. We look first, we pick up different cues, and then we imitate, and often we make mistakes, and we learn again. So culture has a sort of a cycle to it, cultural learning. And it's good to make mistakes, because you remember those mistakes. And I have been through that process in life and in marriage, of making a lot of cultural mistakes. Critical incidence is another way to teach. So what I'm saying here, videos are a great way to teach culture. You can download many different videos. In the guided book, we have a very good addition to that book called iTools. iTools is full of videos that enable you to teach culture as well as the language. In your handout, I've given you 2 pieces of paper of video transcripts, and you can see there on those 2 pages some information about how Godet, as a book, as a text, does help you teach culture. And the iTools, this edition, does have videos embedded in the packet. Have a look, as Irene said, at the Oxford University Press Teachers Club, and look at what Godet does include, Salain Saluku. And what I've given you in that handout are 2 pages of the video presentation. I repeat, video is a great way to introduce and to teach culture. You can't go to America, and the students are probably doing that all the time when they're watching American movies, as we do. We are starting to interpret different aspects of American culture, the good as well as the bad. Critical incidence is a different way of teaching culture. What I mean by critical incidents, are things that really make it obvious that either you've made a mistake or there's something important going on here. I love that quote. Because that's what critical incidence is. It's you. It's your stories when you have encountered or learned something from a different culture. And I'm sure, I'm absolutely positive that you all have a story that connects with another culture, or even another culture in Indonesia. I invite you to think about those stories as a way of introducing culture with your students, or getting them to share their stories too. Let me tell you my story very quickly. You know some of the story already. I studied Sastra Indonesia for 4 years at Sydney University. This is my alma mater. After the first year, as I told you before, we decided to travel. We travelled, so we came here to Java. And when we landed in Malang, we travelled overland by bus and by train as a group of 4 young students. I was very young. I can't remember. I think I was only not 20. I was 19 when I came here. Anyway, I came here as a 19-year-old, but very eager to learn and making lots of mistakes. The first thing I found that was most difficult is we had learned Sastra Indonesia, which was a high level of English, a high level of Bahasa, and everybody spoke Jakarta slang in Jakarta. So I couldn't understand where is Lu, who's Sebe. I was lost. And it took us a while to learn another part of the culture, which is the dialects, the slang of the language. Anyway, back to my story. We travelled to Malang. So there's 4 of us landing in Malang. We had been recommended by one of our lecturers in Sydney University to go to the house of Ron Woods. Ron Woods was another student from Sydney. He had got a scholarship and he was living in Malang, studying at Brawijaya University. We arrived very late at night. Ron said, look, I'm sorry, I have no food in the house. I've eaten, Why don't you go down to Tokyo? High recommendation. Tokyo, as we know, Ira and I came here a few months ago to eat at Tokyo in Samarra. Why is Tokyo famous? But Sakali, thank you very much. The ice cream. Ron was thinking the best way for you to get a good meal for us is to have some ice cream, some food that may be okay for the stomach. And it's a very colonial building, you know, I see a lot of culture in Tokyo. There's a lot of culture in that picture. Anyway, we go to Tokyo. There's 4 of us. Night time. We're going to eat it's about 8:30, 9 o'clock. So we walk in. So I have a little path. Down. The menus, we're looking at the menus. And we start to choose our ice creams. Some of some is Tutti frutti. Salaka. Tutti frutti. We were there for 5 minutes. Vanilla? Scully. 5 minutes to find out there was no ice cream in Tokyo that night. The refrigerator was a rusa. All the ice cream had been moved to the owner's house. But we were quite welcome to sit down. We were quite welcome to be there. And the Japanese hospitality was so nice. If you're lucky, if that was Sydney, if that was New York, if that was London, there's no ice cream, there's no refrigerator, there's a big sign on the door. Tutu. Java. Fantastic. I didn't realize it until I found more. That pattern of behavior is so typical and so nice about ancient cultures. So I go now, I take my story to the time I go back after the traveling. I return to Sydney. I've been teaching now for a few years, teaching Bahasa Indonesia. I decide to do TESOL qualification. I go back to Sydney University and I'm studying part-time. And my assignment to get my qualification is now to teach Malaysian, Indonesian, Asian students, Japanese, Korean, who are in Sydney University, how to write. Why? Because the lecturers are saying, look, we give them the information, they've got the textbooks, we can't understand what they're saying. The ideas are there, so my research was to find out why, and then to make some lesson plans that would help them. To help them write in the way Westerners write. Topic sentence, details, conclusion. Topic sentence, details, conclusion. Awesome. Their way of writing, topic sentence, details, conclusion, details, topic sentence. So what I discovered was this, and this is reference to my qualification. Another picture. This picture represented, and it was based on a researcher called Jerome Kaplan, whose picture represents Jan Kawakiri and Lieutenant, how cultures work. He's a psycholinguist, and his theory is, I think it's right, Western cultures, English being a representative of that, language of those Western cultures, in terms of England, America, Australia, think, talk, and act in a linear way, in a line. Topic sentence, details, conclusion. Restaurants closed. Very easy. Gampang. But Indonesian, Malaysian, Japanese, Korean. A lot of circles. And it takes a lot of time to sometimes find those things. So the critical incidents, and I think it's true, I mean, it didn't even take me long then to start thinking, when I came to live here, traffic in New York, traffic in Jakarta. When I was here, firstly, we used to post letters. Post office in Sydney, post office in Jakarta. 50 people at one counter, and one man, and there's a circle of people with letters that are coming here and said, catch a bus. Trans-Jakarta. Minggu kemarin. There's a circle of people at the door that move in and move out. If I go to Singapore, Singapore's different, yeah? Culturally different too. Why? Alright, so that helped me. What I'm saying here is critical incidents help you teach. And my story there, I hope, is a good example of a critical incident that helped me learn very fast that this is the way the culture works. And there's no right or there's no wrong in this. It's just a kenyataan. And that's the reality. The reference here is Robert Caplan, 1966, Cultural Thought Patterns in Intercultural Education. Okay. What you've got in your book, this is something from the book now. You've got it. And I would like you to have a look at a few of our pages there. Why I like got it is because in the book there's a section called the Culture Club. On that page, and you can find them, I think they're page 28. You can find them easily from the contents. But I do invite you to look at those pages, and I hope agree with me that the Culture Club does this. It builds awareness of similarities and differences. What I call synergies and differences, and that's from Barry Collin, that terminology. The Culture Club has the same structure. There's a very interesting text and a very good picture to motivate the students. The Culture Club also includes those 4 language skills. The 5th language skill, of course, is the culture. So you've got reading activities, vocabulary activities, speaking and writing activities. A very good activity page. And finally, in the Culture Club activities, I hope you'll notice, if you look at it more intensively, there are ways that you can, or you're encouraged to make these comparisons from your culture with other cultures. So this is just repeating this. And why? At the bottom, because it's a way of helping them build both their CQ and their English skills. It does both. Synergies and differences is what I call the similarities and differences. Have a look at this page. I think it's page 28. The picture of the Beatles. The focus is on music. Music is certainly part of culture, and a very unique part of culture. So a way of introducing that topic would be to ask the class to talk about what's the difference between their music and our music. Find the similarities and differences. Synergies here means similarities. What brings them together? There's something about music that's quite unique. Yeah? It's a global music. Everybody knows Lady Gaga. Everybody knows the Beatles. There's sort of a transfer from cultural parts of music in the music world. Tapi, no one in the world has got an uncle, kecuali Malaysia. No one in the world has got gamelan. No one in the world has got music like the music of Sunda. No one in the world has got a dance form like the Tari Lilin, which is connected to music. And of course, the very exciting dance in Sumatra, which I can't remember. That's correct, yeah. So music and dance, as we saw this morning, connects with culture. We go back again just to look at this page one more time. There's a very clear visual and good text, and there are the activities. The next page to look at is page 48. If you could go there in your book. Picture of Mickey Mouse. And this is a representative here of, I think, entertainment. How we search for our entertainment and culture at different ages. And Mickey goes to a lot of different cultures too, doesn't he? He's a connector, a cultural connector. One more. Food. page 79 or 78. And food is a very good cultural connection for people. One of the activities you'll do in a few minutes is connected to food and fast foods. I think Indonesia really invented fast foods. When I came here, there was already gorengan, fast food, and very easy and cheap to obtain. And finally, there's a page there, the last one in this book that you have, that connects to the Guinness World Records. Heroes, I guess, people who make achievements. When I saw that page, I was thinking, how am I going to connect that page to you with culture? I mean, it didn't take me a minute. I thought, last year, in America, there was the world's biggest angklung ensemble. So Indonesia's in the record books in terms of the biggest angklung ensemble. I think they had hundreds of people in Washington playing the angklung. 5,000? Were you there? Well, there you go. So you do have a cultural connection to your culture. We're in the Guinness Book of Records, students, believe it or not. Let's look at some other record holders. So here's a cultural, connector that helps you connect with them and go on. I already mentioned this already. There's a lot of materials on this club, or in this club, so I hope you have already joined it. And materials are connected by it as well. Alright, now we move into the fun. We have some time to do this, and this is how it works. Remember again, thinking in terms of PPPP. Presentation, practice, production, personalization. Now, our leader assistants, Irene and her gang, have given you something about Indonesian culture that comes from a book called Jakarta Inside Out. It's a wonderful book for any expatriate or local who lives, there's a lot of it connected to Javanese, or Jakarta culture I should say, and Javanese culture. And we have in the audience now, and you have them in your hands, we're really going to be working hard for a few minutes. Mohon, membantu saya. Jadi, you have to now design a lesson based on that piece of paper, which includes language, text, and culture, the picture. Now here's the pura-pura part. I want you to think, this is you. You are now teaching a group of non-Indonesian English learners. Remember I said before, you've got a scholarship, you're now in Europe, you're now in America, you might be in Australia, and if you're in Australia, you might be teaching a group of Vietnamese students. If you're in America, I think you could be teaching a group of Spanish students. If you're in Europe, you could be teaching a group of Turkish students or Greek students. You're teaching them English, but I want you to include something from your culture, and you've got it. So you have a reading passage, and that reading passage contains lots of language material. You're the experts, you teach English. So the first thing is to find in that passage, what can we teach? Can we teach some vocabulary here? Can we teach some sentence structure? Can we teach some other grammatical or vocabulary or structural skills? Let's pretend we're, again, we are teaching non-Indonesian. So you have to include also something about this cultural item. That's the personalization part. What's a critical incident that you could include? What's the same but different in somebody got durian? Hands up the durian people. There should be durian people. You've got a story about durian. Durian itself has its own culture. I watch my wife and other people shop for durian. When you go to buy a durian, you just don't walk up and you pick it up and you go, durian, circle. Durian chopping takes a lot of time. I'm sitting in the car, my wife won't let me go anywhere near the durian seller because she knows the price is going to rise. So she always says, you wait here, put a hat on and hide. But I watch and I observe. Anyway, what I'm saying here is some of those islands have their own culture. I said before about fast foods. Who are the Gorengan people? We've got Gorengan somewhere? Fast foods. Very fast. Who's got S? But again, there's something there connected to what we drink in our cultures. American culture drinks a lot of Coca-Cola, lemonade. Our culture is a lot of S. Escanol, Sabor, Este. True story. Connects with some. Oh, actually, this is. I was going to say it's tomorrow. It's Palembang. I was in Palembang 2 months ago testing students. Very short story. I'm personalising this. Yes. I sit down at the restaurant. The waiter comes up. So we want to compare. Este kawa. Este na. Yeah. I said este kawa. Anyway. What you have to do in the next 10 minutes as an individual, as a private teacher, in the sense of pribadi, make a lesson plan. I've given you a PPP template in your handout. Now, time is limited, we're getting near the end. After 10 minutes, we're going to stop. We're going to go to a different part of the room. And then you'll be with all the people who have been working on your topic. I'm in charge of this. We're going to have a sign that says this is where you go, but don't go there yet. And you'll start sharing what ideas you've got. So in the next 20 minutes, I hope you'll end up with a lot of different lesson plans and ideas for teaching this island of your culture, but also teaching language. Don't forget, the focus is on teaching English. So what do you see? You have to read the passage that you can teach from here. Ani, can you help me keep time? So you've got 10 minutes for this activity.
10 minutes. allowed to discuss?
Oh, absolutely. Please. Yeah. Whatever you want to do to make this interactive. Yes, I think that's good. Ask. Well, unfortunately, you might be sitting next to someone with a different topic. That's okay. You can ask them what they're doing or if now. That's fine. Halfway. You've got 5 minutes left to try to find something from that passage to teach that connects to language and culture, and then something from that passage to practice and produce. Remember again, the people you are teaching don't know anything about, maybe, perhaps, I hope, don't know what pratik, what phenomenon, what S is. So you're trying to incorporate some cultural teaching as well as language teaching there. It is important, I forgot to make this clearer, maybe. Yeah. So you should be writing your plans and your ideas on that page, on that template. Jadi, waktu kita berkumpul lagi dengan grup masing-masing, sudah ada bahan yang kita berdiskusi. How many minutes left, honey?
2 minutes.
2 minutes, very good. You know what? There's another thing about culture that we're talking about is waktu. And there's something very circular about waktu dalam kebudayaan Indonesia.
We love
It's
flexibility.
sorry.
We love flexibility.
Flexibility. And it's good. I like it too. But Americans and British people don't like it. You were very flexible with the equal typewriters.
Oh, really?
Okay, are we getting near the end? I hope you are.
1 minute.
Or are you being flexible with me?
No,
Alright, the time is up. And we're getting hungry, right? If you've got some food, cultural items, if you're like me, it's time to eat soon. The more you think about some of these items, the more your mind, I hope, will start to expand. So let's repeat the instructions. You're teaching a cultural topic and you're teaching English language skills from that text to a group of non-Indonesian students in another country. And you are to incorporate ideas for teaching English and teaching culture in this lesson. And you've written some ideas on your plan, your PPPP plan, and now you're going to share it. So let's, thankfully, let me just review who we have here. Thanks to Irene. I've got to thank these people, and I apologize I didn't do this. So we've got Irene, Angra, Santi, Tari, Lala, Dia, Sari, as well as Tari, Emma, Woody, and Anissa around the room. Now they're going to hold up a sign with, is that Woody? He's got durian. So all the durian people, if you could go to him. And before you do it, what have we got? We've got matcha, we've got pengamen, durian, object, nongkrong, U-turn police, and mechat and Kenneth. So please go to them. And now share what you have made. Okay, now once you're in the group, we have them. Is everybody in a cultural group or a cultural topic group? Ada yang lebih besar, ada yang lebih kecil. Okay, now the idea here is that somebody, I hope one of you will act as pemimpin, the moderator, and let's get the people in your group to share. And again, we don't have a lot of time, so please try to share yang paling banyak dalam 1 minute, because we have 10 minutes for this activity as well. So talk to each other, and you know, it's like a circle. So make a circle, you can see who you're talking to. more or less their ideas for them. I think it helps to go see that.
Okay, well, you can start your discussion.
Just share the chairs. Okay, my idea is... Oh yeah. Use English, right? I don't really get this chance. I'm interested in this thing that somehow people use it for grammar part. So I will start. Okay, so maybe the opening for these classes discussing about destinations. What I have to do is
To have that experience, you could always say, well, what do you use besides cars, buses? Well, how do you transport yourself? We can talk about that.
reading.
Next.
What country have reading another thing we can, for example, using action is free time or describing the tea itself, relating or the words of learning are discussed before. So just a quick 5-minute ice-breaking activities. Then I've seen this kind of presentation. I show the pictures, but not the text. So the pictures like this. They're not allowed to open the book. So I just show the pictures like this, a better picture of course, and I say, what do you know about him? Nothing. The picture is black and white, so it's better if you have color.
Any comments? You want to add? Maybe you have different ideas?
Especially for the presentation first.
Yeah, presentation, yeah. Be free.
Could be. That might not even happen there. It might happen later because you're also connecting with the language.
And then what the people usually do when they are not from, so they understand about that. Because students will make some question dari di sini saya.
We're interrupting you.
what topics or what language people are using when they are not usually when they talk, when they are not wrong, they like to learn something which is important. For example, about music or about English. And then their topic, if the topic is hot, then they will invite me to they will be, I want the student to observe what people say when people doing not wrong. They have to stand out when role play or maybe the topic discussed is related to the
2 more minutes.
In my country, the situation is like this. For production or for personalization? Productions. Oh yeah, that's for personalization, right? Yes. We have
I think adding sense of curiosity.
1 minute lagi.
Pictures rather than showing it. We can show this.
We are finished. First thing is just please stop talking. So please stop discussing. That's not good. I mean, I don't like saying that to teachers. Apalagi rekan-rekan yang di bidang sama dengan saya. It's not good because you should encourage sharing. And unfortunately, sayang sekali waktu kami terbatas. We have to finish. So let's finish this way. Sebenarnya, Imo had a next logical step in this activity, and you know it as well, in terms of jigsaw reading. The next thing you would go to another group and share what you have now got, an expertise from a lot of people about that topic. And then you hear, well, how are they going to teach S? How are they going to teach Pengamen? How are they going to... Then you have a lot. You have 10 lesson plans in your repertoire, in your bahan-bahan. The only way we can possibly do this today untuk meneruskan percakapan mengenai topik kita hari ini is probably to do this through the virtual world. So I will explain to you in a few minutes how we might do this before we leave. But sebenarnya sebagai tanda penghormatan, we should hear from some people what was the best idea so far. Do we have enough time? Maybe just hear 2?
When you have 9 minutes.
9 minutes. So could we hear from just say 2 groups who would like to share? Can we get a microphone to you? Can we get a microphone to that lady?
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Maya. I am from State University of Malang, and I cannot introduce my friends here because I hardly know them. Okay. The topic for the article that we've got from Mr. Mani is nongkrong. And we decided that the objective that we'd like to give to the students or to let them, of course there are a lot of enabling objectives to go there, but we'd like to give them how to identify the language used, the words, the expressions, the vocabulary, and also the body language when Indonesian people do nongkrong. Yeah. And then for the presentation, from the discussion that we've done just now, we all agree that first of all we'd like to provide some videos showing some people are doing nongkrong, and then ask the students to pay attention to the body language. Can we call this kind of thing as nongkrong? Can we call someone standing over there as nongkrong? And then we also ask the students to identify the language used and also the body language. That's for present. For practice, of course, the students will work in groups to practice the language, used, the vocabulary, and also the body language in doing nongkrong. And then for produce and personalization, we make it into one kind of mini drama, or a role play, so that they can internalize, they can perform, they can do nongkrong based on its context, based on what Indonesians do. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much for our group. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
your first name? Sorry?
My name is Maya.
Maya, thank you very much for sharing and thank you for acting as the provocateur for that group. We've only got time for one more. I think this time is going very fast. And somebody pointed to this group that was non-profit.
Contextualization before we go to the practice itself, which is the content, gorengan. I'd like to show, if there's the slide in the LCD, some hidden numbers. I will ask students randomly to pick up one number, for example, number 3, and then I'm going to hyperlink, and then number 3 is click, and then there is one picture of food, and the food is of different kinds. One of them is gorengan, and it is expected that students are not familiar with gorengan because they are non-Indonesian students. So that's the contextualization so far. And for movies, the food in this case, and the food is the name of the food is different names, but the students have to guess, and it's placed at the back of. So students are curious also with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My blog, the currency ideas at WordPress.com. There's a Twitter lead there as well. If you've got a blog, put it on your blog. If you've got a website, Facebook account that you would like us to connect. So it's about now connecting. It's the end of the jigsaw. How do we get the other lesson plans? So let's try to use the technology that we do have available. And dengan senang, dengan bangga, dengan semangat yang penting sekali, I invite you to do that. I can't force you. It's not a kewajiban, but it's a very warm invitation to share and continue the conversation about culture and how we teach culture. It doesn't stop here. It's the next step is the sharing part. We have something else to do. Irene will now share with you an evaluation sheet that we need to take back to OUP. So, yes.
Once again, please stay at your seats because we're going to hand out the questionnaire for the feedback, right?
There are door prizes attached to the questionnaire. So if you want a prize, you have to give the questionnaire back.
For those who are still curious and still want to ask questions to Mr. Maya or Mawasi, please you can go outside later and ask the questions to him. Thank you.
This morning we would like to give 3 prizes for this opportunity at this event. So the first one is the Oxford Advanced Learner Dictionary with the iWriter. So this is the thick book. This one is the door prize with the iWriter, with the software inside this. So you just put the software on your computer So you have the online and also the dictionary on your computer using this one. And then we also would like to give 2 prizes of iTools. iTools is the student book and the workbook on the softwares. So if you want to learn, if you want to teach, so you just bring the software. You don't need to bring all the books with you. It's here. It's also connected to internet with the video, with the song. So everything is here. So this is the prizes for today. Hope you like it. Yes.
Who is it?
And the winner is
FX1 Danny. Alright. So let's go.
Thank you very much. We need a picture?
Yes.
Let's take a picture.
Okay.
Congratulations. So, then you want to see?
Yes. See?
It's Naomi Quito.
So we saved the best for last, right?
Congratulations. Worth a lot of money.
Yes. I hope it's not Ibu Celestine got this one. Okay, so this is the lucky winner for today. Archil Belabalan from Harangkuri Regional School.
I thought you were saying
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Say, it's time now for break time. For lunch that you've been waiting for.